You know, when most of us picture the desert, we think wasteland, right? Just this vast, empty, barren space. But what if that's all just an act? What if that emptiness is actually a clever disguise, hiding one of the most complex and resilient ecosystems on the entire planet? Well, today we're going to pull back that disguise and take a look at what's really going on under the sand.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we're going to look right past that illusion of emptiness and see the desert's true strength. Then we'll get into the absolute genius adaptations that make life possible here. But there's a modern threat, the human footprint, which has sparked this incredible mission to protect it all. And that mission has a hero, the Arabian Oryx, whose return is this amazing symbol of hope. And finally, we'll ask, what does this all mean for the future?
All right, let's start with that first impression. Why do we so often get the desert wrong? Well, it turns out this isn't exactly a new thing.
I actually found this quote from a bulletin published way back in 1988, and it just perfectly captures that common feeling. Plant life seems scarce, unattractive, and very seasonal. You can almost hear the disappointment, right? And, to be fair, if you're only looking at the surface, it's an easy conclusion to jump to.
But see, this is where the whole story flips. What if all that apparent emptiness isn't a sign of weakness, but a really, really smart strategy? What if it's a disguise that life out here has perfected over thousands of years? And that gets us to the desert's masterclass, the genius of adaptation. And look, this isn't just about barely scraping by. In an environment this extreme, life has to become an engineer, a master architect of biology, designing these incredible ways to not just survive, but to actually thrive. So life out here basically has three main playbooks for survival. First, you've got the ephemerals. I like to call them the sprinters. They live fast, reproduce like crazy the second it rains, and then they're gone, leaving their seeds to wait for the next downpour. Then you have the succulent perennials, who are the ultimate hoarders, storing every last drop of water in their thick, fleshy leaves. And finally, you've got the woody perennials. These are the patient, long-term investors. Okay, now this is where it gets really wild, because the true story, it's happening underground. For a lot of those woody plants, for every one part you see above the sand, there are six. That's right, 6 parts of roots hidden below. Just think about that for a second. It's a massive, invisible network, constantly searching for water. It tells you everything you need to know about where the real action is. And the survival hacks just keep on coming. You've got plants with these waxy leaves that basically act like a natural sunscreen and sealant. Others have tiny needle-like leaves, or have just given up on leaves altogether and let their green stems do all the work of photosynthesis. But my favorite trick? Some plants only breathe at night. They open up their pores in the cool air to grab CO2, then seal them up tight before the brutal heat of the day. It's genius. So for thousands and thousands of years, this ecosystem evolved to handle incredible heat, drought, you name it. But now it's facing the threat it was never, ever designed for: us. And this is not a new problem. That same bulletin from 1988 put it so bluntly: many wild desert species no longer exist. Their habitats are now houses or parking lots. It's just a stark reminder of how fast a complex world can just get paved over. And today, the pressures from back in the 80s have just multiplied. You've got climate change making the already short wet seasons even shorter. You've got rapid urban sprawl just eating up habitat, and then you throw in overgrazing and invasive species, and what you have is a perfect storm of threats, all hammering this incredibly delicate ecosystem at once. But this is the pivot in our story. Because just as humanity is the source of the threat, we're also the source of the solution. An incredible large-scale mission to protect and restore this place has really taken root. And right at the heart of this mission is the Dubai Desert Conservation Reserve, or the DDCR, which was established over 2 decades ago. The scale of this place is it's hard to wrap your head around. We're talking 225 square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's almost 5% of Dubai's entire land area. It's the largest single land dedication project in the country's history. It's huge. And of course, a commitment this big needs some serious cash. Partners like Emirates have poured more than $7.6 million into this reserve, funding everything from habitat restoration to these amazing species reintroduction programs. So you have to ask, is it actually working? Well, the numbers on this slide, they kind of speak for themselves. Back in 2002, the area was home to about 150 species. Today, that number has skyrocketed to over 560. That is more than triple. It is a phenomenal comeback. And if there's one story that captures that success better than anything else, it's the return of a true desert icon, the Arabian oryx.
I mean, it is hard to believe, but by 1972, the Arabian oryx was officially declared extinct in the wild. Just gone. The entire future of this incredible species rested on just a few animals living in zoos and some private collections around the world.
And now, look at this. From the absolute edge of extinction, the oryx has become the living, breathing symbol of conservation success. This right here, this is what a comeback story looks like.
And the numbers behind this comeback are they're stunning. The whole reintroduction program started with just over 200 animals. Today, the reserve supports a thriving, free-roaming population of more than 1,300 Arabian oryx, sand gazelles, and Arabian gazelles combined.
So when you see these images, you're not just looking at beautiful wildlife photos. You're looking at decades of hard, meticulous work. You're seeing the result of a dedicated breeding and reintroduction program that brought an icon back to its ancestral home and really secured its future in the wild.
So, we've gone on this incredible journey, from a desert disguised as a wasteland to a sanctuary that is absolutely teeming with life. It's an amazing story of revival. But this is where we have to leave the past behind and start looking to the future.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question of all. Over millions of years, the desert has proven beyond a doubt its own resilience. The question that's left for us is, can humanity prove its wisdom?